Welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show. We are on the 20th of June. It is a beautiful, beautiful day here in England, and we are talking Islam. We are talking the last of the 70 major sins of Islam. This is something we've been going through bit by bit in the last 10 weeks, and we have reached the end of the journey. We're also going to be talking about a man you can see on the screen there, Mr. Mohammed Hijab, and we will get to him shortly. But we're going to discuss a report that came out about the grooming gangs in here in the UK. So we're going to talk about that for an opener. And here with me, as usual, is my co-pilot, Mr. Stop Spamming. Welcome.
Yo,
That sounded like a particularly gruff kind of old man's response there, Stops. Come on, where's the youthful vigor that you normally bring?
no, okay. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Everybody okay? How's it?
Much better. Right. So I'm going to we will get onto Mohammed Hijab in a bit, as I say, and I just thought I'd put up his handsome face there for everyone to see. But
Yeah, I was
the
trying to copy him actually because he's also like.
yeah. Well, you know how overly dramatic he is whenever he does his videos. So you don't even have to try it. You can pause like on half a point in his video, and you'll get a stupid expression like this. But look,
It's
I
so
do want to
funny when he
cover.
starts shouting, eh?
Oh, he shouts a lot in this one. Anyway, we are. I want to cover a more serious issue here, and this is something I'm going to do in more detail on my main channel next week when I finally get back to making some new videos. But there was a report on Monday on the grooming gangs situation here in the UK. Now, for anyone who has been looking into this and doesn't have what's the best way to say it? Some kind of weird ideological bias. If they just want to look at the facts, it has been clear for a long time that there is a disproportionate representation of Muslims, particularly of a Pakistani background, but of other backgrounds as well. And this report is kind of confirming that. So basically, what's happened is I'm going to put up a just one piece from the report. As I say, I'm going to go into this in more detail on my own channel, but let me just put this up. Right. So what's happened is the problem with these the grooming gang data is that it's been massively incomplete, despite the fact that the Home Office has repeatedly told police forces to collect proper data about people's ethnic background. They just haven't done it. So 2/3 of the information on ethnicity is still missing, but the remaining third, there's been a lot of kind of dishonest portrayals of the data to try to pretend that there was no disproportionality in certain groups. Now, what they've done is the latest report has combed through certain specific areas, 3 in particular in the country, where they've got much better data on it. And I'm showing this is a screenshot from one of the areas, which is Greater Manchester. So this includes Manchester plus the kind of towns around it, which includes like Oldham, Rotherham, other places like that. And what it shows here is, for example, like it says the 2021 census says there's 20.9% Asian people in the Greater Manchester area, but the number of these suspects for these grooming gangs is 52%. So you're talking it's more than 2.5 times. Now, I want to be very clear on this, because one of the things I hate about this reporting is that it's kind of it's pointing as if it's all Asian people, and it's really, really not. When you look, if you look at the I think in the Greater Manchester, something like 70% of the Asian people who live there are of Pakistani or Bangladeshi background. So this is not an issue of race, as far as I'm concerned. I think the data shows it's much more an issue of religious background, because it tends to be the Muslims who are most overrepresented, particularly from the Pakistani community, but there have been others. Now, just to be clear, not demonizing all Muslims here. I do think that the vast majority of Muslims are appalled by these things as well. So I'm not trying to create some kind of reaction to, oh my God, Muslims always perpetrate this kind of thing. It's not that. But we have to be honest and recognize, as I've been speaking on my channel for years about this, to say, look, there is this disproportionality, and I think it's not really to do with race, it's to do with certain supremacist attitudes that come from some Muslims in regards to other people, non-Muslims particularly, and it's mostly people that have been victims of this have been kind of white British males. And there is, and I think the kind of religious supremacism, which mixes with a toxic then form of racism as well, that goes on top of that, explains, at least it's a major factor in explaining this disproportionality. And I think finally, after 15 years of denial, we've now got a government report that pretty much confirms it, and it's quite an interesting report because it really does condemn the previous denialism over this issue. So I think it's a good thing. And again, this is not about demonizing Muslims or anything like that, but it's about saying, look, there is a problem here. It's a problem that's been obvious, and it's pissing people off, the lying about it. And they have now finally agreed to a national inquiry on this. So hopefully, a lot more people are going to be under the chopping block for this, for their collusion in kind of hiding this. This is pretty much all I'm going to say on this report, other than I do think it's cynically timed. And I think this is more to do with the way the political winds are changing in the UK, because 6 months ago, when they refused to do a national inquiry on this, what's happened since then, which I don't think anyone's pointed out, is last month, the Reform Party had massive wins across the local council elections. They got several mayors elected and stuff like this. And I think it's partly to issues like this lying over the grooming gangs thing, which is pushing people in that direction. And I think the Labour Party are finally cottoning on, we've actually got to do something about this, because it's playing into our political opponents' hands. And I think it's a bad reason for doing it, but at least we may see some justice going forward and some actual progress on this issue. So I think it's a good thing. I'm not going to dwell on any more than that. I will say stops. I don't know. I know you weren't massively aware of this, but was there anything you wanted to add on this subject?
Well, what shocks me is that it happens again and again and again, and the UK doesn't seem to learn anything from this. I mean, I remember in Rotherham or whatever it was, there was this huge outburst, and I think a couple of people were actually convicted, and they said, well, never again, we're going to keep an eye on this, and they haven't. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on in people's minds? How is it possible that under their noses, you get more and more gangs coming up again and again doing the same identical thing? It's mind-boggling that the let's say the authorities, I don't know who the authorities are in this case, that they are simply not paying attention to this. Is it still that they're too scared to say anything? Because in Germany, for example, they're too scared to say anything because, Muslims are world champions at playing the victim. And as soon as you sort of antagonize them or even criticize them, even slightly, they go apeshit. And maybe this is something that happens in the UK as well, where the people are now sort of appeasing and just not saying anything anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a complicated situation. There's all sorts of institutions which have failed, including the police, social services, and there are issues around certain major political parties who have Muslim constituents who basically wanted to brush this under the carpet to keep the political support. There's a whole bunch of different factors going on here. And I just think it's important to recognise it, because again, like, people bitch and moan about Tommy Robinson, and I understand why. Look, I understand why. Okay, I know his background is, he's got various dodgy things about his character. I mean, I don't think he's like some far right demonic figure away, but he's certainly a dodgy character, and he's from, he's got a criminal background, football hooligan background. But the point is, this man would still be an anonymous guy on the football terraces of Luton Football Club, causing fights and getting drunk. He would not be known if this issue had been just acceptably dealt with and acknowledged in the first place by mainstream media and politicians. And he is only around because the rest of the establishment have just not acknowledged this. So I just think that people now need to just get past this, end the denialism, move forward, prosecute who can be prosecuted, and start to heal some wounds over this, because I think it will make the country a lot calmer now that this is, because they're worried about, there's going to be a massive backlash against the Muslim community. I don't think there is. This report has been out for several days now. There's been no massive backlash against Muslims that I've heard of. There's been nothing in the media. So I just think we need to grow up about this and just acknowledge the truth, deal with it, and move on. But anyway,
but Quran OnlyFans is making a very good point here, and I think this is something that should happen in the UK. This is information. Okay, people need to understand this kind of an attitude, and that this comes from Islam. This does not mean that every Muslim is like that. It means that every Muslim has the chance to be indoctrinated by the doctrines, by the dogma of Islam, which allows this kind of treatment, which allows this kind of behavior. And that is something that I think should be disseminated, and people made aware of that. Whereas, it's treading on or walking on eggshells, and nobody's doing anything. And this, I think, is terrible, because it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, I agree. It's the denialism. I mean, there's always going to be a bunch of different factors in such a complicated kind of criminal social issue, but it's the denialism that Islam has plays any role in this pisses people off, and it really should, because it's obviously playing a role. But anyways, look, I as I say, I don't want to dwell on this too much, because I'm doing a much more detailed video about this later. So I think,
but it is a big topic.
Yeah, it's an enormous topic, and the report
really is pissing me off.
The report is 200 pages long as well, so it's going to take a while to go through it. So, but it's good that it's happened. I see this as a positive going forward now. Maybe we can start to deal with this crap. But anyways, right, we're going to go on to something a bit more light-hearted now.
Charlie.
See, Mohammed, you're getting too far ahead of yourself, right? So, since Mohammed,
I'm sorry that I'm laughing. He reminds me of an old woman sitting in the car driving. They always seem to have their head up like this when they're driving.
Well, he's driving me and himself mad by the sounds of it. I suppose he's going to have an aneurysm one day doing his videos, all the screaming and shouting he does. But all right, so basically, what this video is, it's a cut down of a video he did talking about Charlie Kirk. Now, since Mohammed Hijab's hotel indiscretions a few months ago, he has really become kind of a strange figure, because he can't really do Dawa anymore, because he's just lost all credibility. He doesn't seem to be producing any more videos with that Norwegian network that he'd set himself up with. He's certainly not going to go down Speaker's Corner, because they tear him to shreds now with what happened. So basically, he spends his time and videos basically traveling to different countries, obviously on his subscribers' money, and then also challenging people to debates. Now, he's always been obsessed with doing this, what I call rage begging, where he'll title a video. In this case, it's against Charlie Kirk, who's this MAGA kind of American Christian guy, and he'll insult them, but at the same time beg for a debate. So it's really pathetic. And just before we get, well, actually, look, I mean, I might play a bit of the video, because this is just for fun, just to see how upset he gets. But he doesn't really seem to realize that while he's influential amongst Muslims, everyone outside of Islam who isn't actually paying attention to Islam doesn't give a shit about him, doesn't really know who he is. And this clearly pisses himself off, because I think in his mind, he feels like he should be on Joe Rogan every week or something. Like he's that special, like I should be getting millions more viewers in the mainstream, and no one cares. And this is why this rage baiting goes on. But I'll start the video, because this is just for fun, really, just seeing him getting himself wound up. So I'm going to play a bit now.
There's a man called Charlie Kirk, who's an activist, a supposed activist, a high school dropout, and an ultra-crepidarian who's been getting involved in subjects that are way beyond his pay grade.
Oh yeah, this ultra-crepidarian thing seems to have found a new word now. He seems to be putting this in all of his videos to try and make himself sound smart.
But isn't that Yasser Qadhi who brought this up?
Sorry, say again?
Wasn't that Yasser Qadhi who sort of came up with this word suddenly?
I don't know. No, I mean, I think it is a real word, just like people who are pontificating.
It's not a popular word, and I think I heard it first by...
Yeah, he might have popularized it a bit, and Mohammed Hijab copied him. I don't know, but he seems to use it in all his videos at the moment. Anyway, that's a character. Let's see him. The vein rise on Mohammed's head as he gets himself.
An individual who is a right-wing, not just a right-wing apple polisher, but a Donald Trump apple polisher. An individual who's been stuck in the plantation, the ideological plantation of MAGA, picking the political cotton for Trump, being whipped by Daddy Trump into political and ideological submission.
He's always get his slightly sexual thing. He's always got to put that in there, getting whipped by Trump.
Yeah, but what is picking political cotton?
Oh, it's. I think I think what he's doing, he thinks he's really clever. It's kind of a riff on. You get certain commentators on the right wing in America. I think they'll talk about people being on a democratic plantation, and they make allusions to periods of slavery.
Oh, really?
It's just kind of rhetoric, which he thinks he's being really clever by using it against him. It's pathetic.
Who came to the United Kingdom, and instead of engaging with his adversaries in a manner that would befit someone who claims, or at least acts like a debater, has done the same thing as Ben Shapiro, another coward, another weasel who's been weaseling around and running away because he is a pusillanimous from me for many, many years.
Right, I just got to stop it there, though, because I want to highlight the point that basically he's bent out of shape, as he always gets, because Charlie Kirk has obviously come to the UK and he has tried to get some kind of debate with him, and he's been ignored, just like virtually everyone ignores him. And so he does this stupid grandstanding on his own channel because he's pissed off that he's not getting any fucking attention. Now, the funny thing is, on this point, right, I swallowed my pride and I actually had a look on Twitter, which I'm loath to do because I hate Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now. And I had a look at Mohammed Hijab's Twitter timeline. No one talks to this guy anymore. It's so funny, right? What happens is every single post he makes, he then reposts it. As far as I could tell, I scrolled down the last couple of months. He'll post something, then repost his own post, tagging in someone who he's trying to get a debate with, to act as if there's a conversation going on. But really what's happening is he's just being ignored by everyone outside of the Muslim community. And it's obviously, this man's got an ego the size of a fucking planet. So this is really pissing him off that no one gives him the time of day. And for me, it's a good bit of fun just to laugh at him.
Yeah, but it's an ego of a gas planet.
Yeah, the ego of Jupiter. Hijab's a celebrity in the same way the bearded lady is at the circus. Dear, thank you for that smile, appreciated. Yeah, he's just not as popular as he thinks he is. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with this.
And this individual here.
Just to say what he said in the beginning, that Charlie Kirk is an activist who's just living according to MAGA standards, and he's sort of bootlicking the standards of MAGA. Well, what is he doing? He's living by the standards of, I don't know, Islam Dawa. So he's just as bad, and then he goes and calls out somebody who just happens to have a different kind of attitude, but it's the same general sort of I don't know,
bullshit.
You can say that. Yeah, it is.
Has come to University of Cambridge, speaking to students, just like Ben Shapiro does, the same format exactly. And even then, when he interacts with students, he thinks he's making all these fantastic points. But I've never seen a person who makes so many blunders in such a short span of time. Let's take a look at just one video and come back and respond in kind.
Right, I've cut the video because it is basically just him going on about Israel and Palestine, and I wasn't particularly interested in going in looking into that, to be honest. It's not a topic I particularly am interested in talking about. I'm more interested in just looking at him raging. So this is on the back end of it, but it just shows he's just pissed off, because he's not getting any attention. So let's see how Hijab copes with that. This is towards the end of his video.
What I'm going to say to you is this: you've been running away for too long. You're trying your best to manufacture scenarios just like Ben Shapiro, wherein which you can antagonize, provoke, debate, and control all the variables of a debate with undergraduate students.
Yeah, I mean, that is the exact same thing that all these Dawa guys do at Speaker's Corner. Or even when they try and debate someone who is more well known, it's always like, oh yeah, come to London and we'll book we'll pay for all your expenses. And what that means is basically, we'll get you over here and we'll book a Muslim student association will book a little room with them, pack it out of all our people who will heckle you throughout the debate, and then we'll call that reasonable. I mean, it's the fucking hypocrisy of him. Like, he's going to point the finger at them, and this is exactly the Darwin tactics that they use.
The thing that they have in common with you is the fact that both of you haven't graduated yet. In fact, at least they are trying to. You dropped out. But that's another issue for another day.
I mean, he keeps going on about him dropping out. I mean, apart from the qualifications that Mohammed Hijab prints off for himself, or I don't know, he's on to Zakir Naik University or something, he's got no formal qualifications, even though he claims to have 50 degrees. And and as Quran Only fan says, I didn't introduce him properly as an Oxford graduate. Yeah, because he's not an Oxford graduate. That's the point. And he's a failed supply teacher as well. So, I mean, all these ad hominems, we can all do that, Mohammed. We could just throw all that same shit back in your face. So it's just... Anyways, we've just got another minute or two of this, as I say, just for fun.
Why not debate somebody who's established in the issues? I challenge you, you coward, bucktooth coward, hillbilly coward, MAGA coward. Come. And although that you're unqualified and you have no expertise in the area and you're a nobody when it comes to Islam, the religion you're speaking about, you're an absolute nobody when it comes to Gaza. You have no formal qualifications. No expertise, nothing.
And yet I'm still going to beg you for a debate and still beg Ben Shapiro for a debate and anyone else who I can beg for a debate. And right, this is the funny thing about this guy as well. It's like, because I think because you've got this podcast kind of thing on the internet where you've got like Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman and Patrick Bet-David and, all these kind of bigger, Tucker Carlson and Piers Morgan, all these things. And he's desperate to be on this group of podcasters, like churning around. But the point is, while all this demented raving that he does plays well for his core Salafist audience, anyone like in the larger podcast sphere just thinks he's a fucking idiot. They just think he's a raving loon. And every time he gets his toehold into this podcast world, like he did go on Piers Morgan and he had a chat with Jordan Peterson a couple of years ago, he does all this stupid, crazy crap. And he never gets invited back. And he doesn't seem to put two and two together. Maybe if I stop acting like a demented child, they might get me back. But he can't help himself because it's all about him, his fucking ego. So it's just funny. Like every like couple of weeks now, he's doing videos like this. He was doing for that other guy, Patrick Bet-David, saying, you scum, let me come on your show and all this kind of stuff. And it's just hilarious, like the delusion bubble this guy lives in. Anyways, we just got a little bit more of this, so let's watch him freak out.
I don't mind putting you under my foot, just like you're happy for Daddy Donald Trump, Daddy Diddy Donald Trump, to put you under his foot, his MAGA foot, and whip you and the rest of the MAGA boys into submission. That's all I have to say, you coward. And if you have the bravery for it, I'm ready. And that's all I have to say. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, so just like does all that, but then right at the end, but if you do want to debate, then call me.
What a pathetic child.
I'm sorry, Wanda. It's just I knew we were going to talk about something quite serious to begin with, and I just fancied a bit of Mohammed Hijab to light.
It's a neutralizer for sure, yeah.
He is a great clown. I'll give him that. As you said, he's an actor. He's a terrible actor, but it is fucking funny to watch. So. Anyways, right. Should we do a hadith of the week, Stops? Are you up for one of them?
Let's go for it.
It's a very, very short one. It's one of the shortest ones I've done, but it's brilliant. And it does relate to the 70 sins of Islam, because a couple of the sins that we're going to be talking about are to do with missing prayers. So I hope everyone could see this. This is Ibn Majaj, Volume 1, Book 4, Hadith 795. It was narrated by Usama bin Zayed. The Messenger of Allah said, "Let men desist from failing to attend a congregation, otherwise I will burn their houses down." So that was Muhammad saying that if you don't go to prayer, then he's going to come around and set your house on fire. So I just think another, this peaceful man, Yeah, I love that one. This one's just brilliant because it's just so short, sweet, and to the point, and just really captures Muhammad's character brilliantly well. So, right, with all that said, I am now going to move on to the final part of our series, the major sins of Islam. So let me just change the screen here. Bear with me 1 second. I can't believe it has been 2 months already, more than 2 months since we started this, and we finally reached Endgame.
What is this? Have you seen his TV acting debut? Said it? What? I didn't know he was on TV. He's acting.
Oh yeah, Quran Only fans. I've been planning to do a comedy review of that stuff for a long time, and I have got a script ready. I just need to record it. So you will see on my main channel, hopefully in the next month or so. I will be deconstructing in a humorous way this stupid. It was basically he did like it's like a sort of made for TV drama, but he released it on his own channel where he's doing an actual acting role, but it's just like a version of himself where he just plays like this super badass kind of guy who's like he's a teacher who is like raising up all these poor kids, like he's the Muslim savior of the poor benighted youth, while he's also fighting off gangs and all this kind of stuff. It's fucking pathetic. But it is hilarious, so I am going to do some comedy reviews. Anyway, right, enough of Mr. Hijab. Let's get on to the main topic for tonight. So last part, we are up to number 64. And it is so this sin is right. Sorry, I should just for any new people just go down the scoring system. So what we're doing is we're looking at the sins of Islam, the major sins, and we are attributing a value to them based on whether we agree that, well, not that it's a sin, but we agree that it's something immoral and that should be illegal. So things like killing, stealing, etc. We would say yes. We would give those ones 1 point. If we consider that the thing is immoral but shouldn't be illegal, so maybe things like adultery and stuff like that, then we give it half a point. If we think it's arguable whether these sins are immoral, we'll give it 1/4 of a point. And if we don't think they're immoral, we give them 0 points. So that's the basic scoring system. We've been doing this. We've done it for the previous 63. Tonight we finish off, and then on Sunday we'll be doing an extra show where we go through the final score for Islam and see how well its morality based on these 70 sins are relevant in today's world. So that's just for anyone who doesn't who's just watching this for the first time. If you are, you can go back and watch all the previous episodes on this. But anyway, we can get moving on this. So despairing of the mercy of Allah and losing hope. So the Quran verse is related to this: is no one despairs of solace from Allah except people who are unbelievers, and that's verse 1287. It is he who sends down abundant rain after they have lost all hope. That's Quran 42:28. And say, my slaves, you have transgressed against yourselves. Do not despair of the mercy of Allah. And that's Quran 39:53. So, do we think that despairing of the mercy of Allah and losing hope is in any way a sin or immoral?
No.
That is the correct answer. Yeah, it's
Who
not.
thinks of these things? How can this be a sin? How can it be a sin that you are doubting the mercy of Allah? If you see, like the guy next to you, he's got, I don't know, his whole leg is being eaten up by some virus or some bacteria, and they have to, amputate it. And then he says, well, is this really the mercy of Allah? And I'm losing hope. Yeah, well, that leg is never going to come back because there's all these miracles, but that you've never had any documented sort of attaching of a leg. So how can you? I mean, it's your bloody duty to go and despair of the mercy of Allah because it's not there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I really don't understand this one. I mean, if you look at the bit that's written afterwards, sorry, I've just skipped a bit too far. It says the Prophet said, "None of you should die except with a good opinion of Allah." So this is basically saying, you don't like Allah's character, then it's evil. But despairing of the mercy of Allah and losing hope, again, I don't even know what they're trying to really get at with this. I mean,
You
like
shouldn't doubt
I
that's the
suppose
whole.
it's saying you should be grateful. You should be grateful for Alex
Exactly.
mercy and attention. Essentially, I
And
think
always
that's what
hope
they're
for the
getting at.
best, and it's just
But
a short test, and you're going to be awarded a mighty reward afterwards. So that's it.
Quran only fans is right. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
0 points here, and it's not a great start that Islam is off to. So let's roll on to the next one. Right. So this goes to the aforementioned hadith, abandoning the group prayer and praying alone with a valid excuse. Now, there's no Quran verse linked to it.
Not a valid excuse.
Praying.
Sorry, I don't have an excuse. That's a sin.
Right. Well, look, this is good actually because there's no Quran verse, but it does resort to another hadith that's quite similar to the one which I found. Ibn Masud related that the Prophet said about people who fail to attend the prayer, I wanted to order a man to lead the prayer, lead the people in the prayer, and then burn down the houses of men who stayed away from the group around them. So there's a lot of burning down houses if you miss prayers in the old world in Islam. And again, people should stop abandoning the group prayers, or Allah will seal their hearts and they will be among the heedless, etc., etc. So, yeah, I mean, this is another clear case of a 0 for me. I'm not even sure. It's really funny the way this one's worded as well, because it's like it's not just abandoning the group prayer, but praying alone. So it's like, well, it's not really the prayer issue then, is it? It's like you wanted to be off on your own for a while. You didn't want to like get together in the mosque.
You need to be under supervision all the time.
Yeah, to make sure you're praying right and you're kneeling in the correct way and you're touching your head on the floor the right number of times, because if you don't, Muhammad will come around and burn your house down.
But did you find the hadith after you read this?
Yes, I did.
Because I think it's quite clever that you went and you checked this and you said, yeah, this actually does exist.
Well, yeah, this one is a slightly different. In fact, there's a whole bunch of them which say a similar thing. But when I read that, I just thought I couldn't believe it. So yeah, I did go and check. But then I thought I'd rather have a different one, a shorter one to read, just as an introduction. But there's half a dozen of them, and there are longer ones as well, where they're talking about other stuff, and then it comes back to Muhammad burning their houses down if they don't come for prayer.
I'm sorry, I'll have to hijack this. I'm going to use this in my Islam Focus stream next Tuesday.
Yeah. Please do. Just put like burn down the houses into Quran X, and you'll get like half a dozen hadiths on basically just saying the same thing. But it's amazing, isn't it? Because I'd never heard of this before. Obviously, we're giving this one a 0, and it's not even an argument. So we're just gonna.
But it's interesting, yeah.
Go on to just talk about this, but I'd never heard of any kind of hadith like this, and I was surprised that they put this so cavalierly into this document, because it really does not show Muhammad in a good light. And in a way, I'm not surprised that I haven't heard it before, because he looks so bad, because that is such an extreme overreaction to say, if you miss a prayer, I'll burn your house down. But yeah, as I say, it's not just one, it's half a dozen, and they're in different hadith collections, so it's definitely authentic. And yeah, I'm surprised I've not seen it in people who critique Islam either, though. So it just shows that the hadith collections are just a goldmine of great stuff to just, well, quite frankly, laugh at Islam. And sometimes you do need to laugh at Islam. I'm sorry if that pisses Muslims off, but when this is part of your official scripture, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. And we do have to puncture this bubble of supremacist mindset, thinking you're better than everyone else, which is like, take a look at how your own prophet was behaving and threatening people. This is not a great role model.
I've got a document with something like 60 pages, which I used to do on the Gin and Tonic show for the Hadith of the Week. So I collected them, but I've never come across this one.
Well, there you go. You see, there's always something new to learn about Islam. Anyways, should we spin on to the next one, because I don't think the next one is going to take us too long either, from what I remember. So far, that is 2 zeros. We will go to number 66, which is almost the same. Persistently missing the Jumu'ah. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. My Arabic is always terrible. And group prayers without a valid excuse. So this is basically almost identical to the previous one, apart from it's missed out the point of praying by yourself, And I did look up this Jumu'ah word, and I can't remember what it means now. I think it does mean something like, shit, I'll have to look it up again.
Isn't that communal prayers?
I think it is. I think it's just another way for saying communal. So it's weirdly repetitive. It's like you're missing the communal prayers and the group prayers without a valid excuse. So it's just like a carbon copy of the previous one. There is a Quran verse here. On the day when legs are bared and they are called on to prostrate, they will not be able to do so. Their eyes will be downcast, darkened by debasement. For they were called upon to prostrate while they were in full possession of their faculties. And that's Quran 68:42. So maybe the Jummah thing is something to do about the manner in which you pray as well. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't really change anything in terms of whether this is it just means Friday, is it? Is that all it means? Okay. Right. So yeah, I mean, this just shows that they are running out of anything decent to put in this list, because it is basically just a copy of number 65.
And that Friday is the communal prayer. Yeah, you're right. You're right. This will be the standard traditional Friday prayer where everybody gets together. Yeah.
So again, it's a clear zero. So it's 3 zeros in a row. And again, this is one of those occasions when I almost feel like I want to put a penalty score on, because it's like a copy and paste of number 65. It's like, if you're too lazy to even come up with 70, don't make it 70, make it 65 and get rid of some of the duplicates. Quran Only fan says, does anything show Mo in a good light? I mean, look, you can. This is the thing. I said this a few weeks ago, actually, that when I was doing these hadiths about Muhammad, you can find some good ones in there. You can find ones where he's advocating for, don't be too rash in your behavior, don't be too quick to judge, maybe take care of orphans. There are bits and pieces in there where he does come across as a more reasonable person, and I fully acknowledge that, but that's not the point. It's the status which Muslims give him as the most moral of all people that have ever lived. That's obvious rubbish when you look at, for every good hadith, you can probably find a bad one. And the bad ones tend to be really vicious, like that one, just threatening to burn people's houses down. They don't come to the prayer. I mean, does that sound like somebody's being reasonable and balanced in their judgment? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Stops.
No, I was going to say, I think it's 1 in 27, because we did a show once where we said, let's find all the positive sides. So, you can't accuse us of only criticizing and only running it down, but we do acknowledge that there are good parts. And the video I published yesterday on the German channel also says that there is what I call one of the cherries in the cake, where he says, look after or respect the elderly. So you do find them, but then when you find one good one and you put this into, no, what I did is I said, find me all the ones which are positive, find me all the ones that are negative, and it was 1 in 27. So for each good one, there are 27 bad ones.
Oh, really? But what criteria were you using to determine? Because that sounds it sounds like it could be somewhat subjective what someone's going
Yes, of course it is. And I think I used the annotated skeptics version.
Okay.
I don't know if do you know about this one?
No, I don't.
Okay, because these are people who started off with the Bible, and it's annotated skeptics Bible, and they assigned, I think it's like 8 or 9 different criteria to the individual sentences, whether they're benign, whether they're cruel or funny, absurd, or so. There's lots of criteria that they've done. And they've done the same for the Quran. And then if you use that, it's 1 in 5 for the New Testament, for example, this I remember. And with the Quran, I remember just the ratio 1 to 27. But it is absolutely subjective, yes.
I mean, that is pretty bad. I mean, I was going to be more charitable and assume that it would be maybe not 50-50, but I thought there'd be more positive than just 1 in every 27. But I suppose, but I mean, a lot of them are just bizarre, aren't they? They're just like random sentences, like don't wear purple trousers on a Tuesday, that kind of just pointless kind of crap. So I would have thought maybe, I mean, the other 26 out of 27 weren't all necessarily bad, were they? Some of them must have just been like weird. And
Yeah, but look, how many times does he say, "Okay, free a slave"? I mean, in the Quran, this happens, I think, 3 or 4 times. But how many times do you get mentioning of slaves and how to treat them badly? How you can have sex with your female slave even if she's married, and how
Mm.
Muhammad goes off and says, "Listen, enjoy raping the slave girls. It doesn't matter whether they're going to be pregnant because Allah determines this. So don't worry about the prices on the slave market. You go ahead and do your thing, enjoy it while you're at it. Don't pull out. Don't worry about it." How many times?
Mm.
There's like a dozen of these where he tells his people to fully enjoy raping female slaves.
They are some of the worst ones, those. I mean, and the denialism and apologetics around it is pretty appalling as well, I think.
It is, yeah, it definitely is. But then you see, this is the whole point. So, how many do you think you're going to find where slaves? I mean, even Muhammad treated. I mean, he traded in slaves. Okay, he says, "Why are you releasing these slaves? No, give them to me, and I'll put them to work, and then later on, I'll trade them for somebody else." So he was using slaves. I mean, all his wives. I don't know how many. Some people say it was 14. Some say it was 22. Nobody really knows how many wives he had. But they all had their house. They all had their servants, and they had slaves. So
Mm.
this is pretty bad.
And all the female slaves he would have had access
And the
to.
concubines, and that, yeah. Well, we know the
So
story. The favorite slave Maria, that he had slaves and that he had sex with, and his wives came in and said, "Listen, but it's my turn tonight." And he's still carried on. This is so hilarious.
but I mean, just to sort of round off that point, if I was doing just like as best you can, like a historical analysis, and it wasn't kind of doing this counter Darwin work, then I would probably, I would try to be as balanced as I could, as I would for any figure. Like, I'm
Mm.
not particularly out to demonize Muhammad or anything. He would have had his good parts, his bad parts, and he's, he's a person of his time. Now, I do think he is actually pretty bad, but I wouldn't say like every single thing he's done is bad. But this is the reason we have to highlight. I'm really only going to highlight the negative stuff when I'm arguing with people who think that he's the greatest man who ever lived. Because if you're going to put that height on him, then he's going to have a much higher burden to meet that standard. And
Exactly.
therefore, I'm just going to focus on all the negatives. And there is an abundance of it, as you're pointing out. 20, only 1 in 27 are decent. Yeah, then you really need to put this claim away, or you need to abandon everything every official story about Muhammad and just say, well, we don't know, he's a mystery. That's your best shot at doing it. You can't say you believe all this stuff and then say he's the greatest man, not without major cognitive dissonance.
No, and how do you balance this? I mean, if he says if somebody leaves Islam, kill him, there's no way of balancing it. This is just evil. All right, that's it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? The bad is always so much worse than the good is good.
Yeah.
Like, the good ones are kind of nice bits here and there, and then the bad ones are just like torture and
There you go.
and all the
Exactly
rest
my
of it,
point.
murdering people, and it's like those don't balance out on the scales.
Yeah. And he was such a gentleman and so forgiving. No, he had everybody killed who even mocked him. If somebody made a poem about him, he didn't like. It's like a Trump, you know. If somebody says something you don't like, arrest them, deport them, put them in a concentration camp, whatever. Same story.
Mm. Right. Okay. That was.
But one thing is amazing, that they actually did this. They actually wrote this. So there's something wrong in the whole story. Because if they wanted this guy to be really fantastic and like a Jesus-like figure, they wouldn't have said all these things. Look at all the negative things about him in the Hadith. Look at all the things in the Hadith. This is missing in the Quran. This is missing in the Quran. This was eaten by sheep. This is this. So they're making their own doctrine, their own prophet. They're mocking it. And I don't understand why that actually happens and why this is still available in public today.
Well, I mean, there is an answer to that, but it's a pretty disturbing one. Is that the people who wrote it thought that these were all good things, and that's what I find really troubling, because or either they were good or they were acceptable in the cause of spreading Islam and destroying the infidels. You have to do a bit of tough, a bit of rough justice for them, that kind of thing. So if it involves a bit of murder and torture and stuff, then that's fine. That just shows how committed Mohammed was to Allah's cause. I think that might explain it, but that just shows the savagery in my mind. But anyways, as I say, we've diverted a little bit off the trail here, but although that was an interesting little chat, and I think we bashed Mohammed enough now. So let's move on to the next one, which is number 67. And I apologize if anyone can hear my cat squeaking in the background here. Right, so number 67, causing harm in bequests. So Allah says, after any bequest you make or any debt, making sure that no one's rights are prejudiced, and that's Quran 4:12. So that means without causing any harm to your heirs, for instance, by leaving a debt by which harm is intended to someone's rightful heirs. I mean, that's weird. First of all, I'd say that's a bit weird in the Islamic system that you inherit debt in that way. I mean, admittedly, I'm just going from kind of British legal point of view, but you can't inherit the debts of your father and mother.
Yes, you can.
And unless it was particularly tied to, say, a piece of property or something like that. But if you've got some personal debt, you can't take that on anyway. So it's a bit weird. But I mean, that aside, causing harm in bequest. I mean, the idea of it just seems a bit bizarre to me. Like, I'm going to leave something in my will to you that's going to really mess you up. I mean, yes, if that was a real thing, I suppose you could say it was immoral potentially, but the whole concept seems weird to me. Can you make sense of this one? Because
well, actually, yes, because if you, for example, you buy a car and you paid half of it and then you die, then your children will have to pay the rest of the car. The same for a house. If there's a mortgage on a house, then it's the property thing, okay? So it's the same thing with the car. It's the same thing if you buy a TV and it's only half paid, then they inherit the debt of half a TV.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have to, though, would you? For example, you can work out something with it. You wouldn't be contractually obliged. You could just,
no, you can reject. You can reject the entire inheritance.
Yeah. No, but I mean, you could again, but yet I don't see. You wouldn't be able to pass on something like that?
You can't state, I hereby say that my son has to pay my daughter 50,000. This you can't do, and this is, I think, what it's referring to. That you cannot say something that will intentionally harm somebody else by what you are demanding of them. I think this is how I'm reading this.
Yeah. I mean, I think with that kind of interpretation on it, I would say, okay, I'm okay with giving this a half point. I'd say it's I can see the argument of saying if you have the ability to dump debt onto your heirs
Intentionally.
that's then yeah, I'd say that would be harmful. So if you're deliberately doing that time, now I'm all right with giving this half a point, even though it's quite weird. I mean, I can't really see this really happening under inheritance laws.
Okay,
in the UK, but
I need to throw a spanner in the works.
go on, please do, especially since we haven't got this on tonight, so we no time break.
Because you need to look at the context here, because I've just realized that this is 412. So the context of 411, 412 is this inheritance distribution thing. So all it does is it says you need to make sure that your papers are in order. Okay, so what you have to do is you first have to pay out anything that you owe to somebody before the rest of the inheritance is then paid out. That's all it is. So I'm more inclined now to make it a quarter, because all this is just saying, listen, just pay your fucking debt and then the rest gets paid to the inheritance. This is not what I said, that make sure that you don't damage anyone. No. The context is totally different.
I would still say, though, that the way that because they're saying causing harm, they're particularly putting that in there as the caveat. They're saying, like, so you're going to go out there and deliberately use the inheritance of debt to harm your heirs for some kind of malignant
but
reason.
That's not what it says in the Quran.
Let me just read down further then.
Because the word harm is not really there, because 411, 412 only says, listen, pay rent, the rest then goes out to your heirs. But making sure that no one's rights are prejudiced means that if you owe somebody money, he should get his due before your heirs get the money. That's all it is.
Yeah. So therefore, what would be the harm in this situation then? If you didn't?
No, if you go and say my heirs inherit everything, but you're leaving out the debt that you have, or that you owe somebody else some money for something, that is the harm, because then those people who are entitled to their money wouldn't get the money from you. So
Okay, yeah, but again, I can kind of see that as being a reasonable take, but then again,
it is. No, absolutely. But I think it's like common sense that you first need to pay what people owe before you distribute something to the heirs, which is for free. So first you need to go and you honor what is actually what's a debt. Yeah, and that's debt. It's obviously a silent B. Yeah. Okay. Then. All right, I'm actually fine. It's just in the context, it's not that serious because there's no harm here. The only harm would be that somebody who is entitled to some money doesn't get the money. And that's it. So this is, for me, secondary.
So what, you still think it should be a quarter then rather than a half?
Yeah, because it's not really that serious. It's not really a harm as such. Because it's not what I said in the beginning, that you are intentionally making sure that somebody doesn't get it. This is not the context of this sentence. Yeah, it says here, you see, regarding inheritance, regarding this is just within the distribution. Yeah.
All right, I'll agree. You know what? I'd be okay with giving it half, but considering we were definitely overly generous to Islam last week, so I think I'm happy to. Yeah, you made a reasonable point. I'll go with a quarter point. No, that's fine. Okay, right, we're moving down to number 68. Deceit and treachery. Al Almighty says, evil plotting envelops only those who do it. Quran 35:43. And then the Prophet says, deceit and treachery will be in the fire. A swindler, a miser, and someone who reminds others of his charity will not enter the garden, etc., etc. Okay, so deceit and treachery. Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of another version of lying, isn't it? So we've kind of covered that ground before, and treachery's been kind of covered in other things, I suppose, as well.
Yep.
Again, I mean, making it illegal, I wouldn't say in general it should be illegal. I wouldn't give it a point, but I could probably go for a half on this. I think it is immoral to be traitorous.
And duplicate on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah, most situations. I mean, yeah, you're going to find exceptions, but in most situations, I think deceit and treachery are going to be fairly immoral, and there's a good chance they could have negative consequences on people. So I think a half is reasonable.
They think they deceive Allah, but He's deceiving them. Yeah, Allah is the best deceiver, I know.
Yeah, don't deceive people. That's Allah's job. That's all right. That's fairly straightforward. So we'll give a half point for that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So number 69. Right. This actually is funny because what you just said. So 69 is spying on the Muslims and pointing out their weaknesses. Now, there's no Quran verse given here. I mean, this is so insecure, isn't it? I mean, according to the Hadith, Umar wanted to kill him for what he'd done. That's Hakib ibn Abi Balta, but a messenger of Allah forbade him to kill him since he had been at Bada. If the consequences of someone spying is weakness for Islam and its people, and it results in killing or capture or looting of anything of the kind, he is someone who creates corruption in the earth and destroys tillage and offspring, and so it's obligatory to kill him, and he deserves that punishment. So this is related to treachery in the land and all that kind of stuff, and also apostasy, essentially. But yeah. All right, we'll try and focus on the actual title. So spying on the Muslims and pointing out their weaknesses. If this was more generally about, okay, you're talking about military stuff and being at war and giving away, because I'm reading this as kind of like in a war situation, you give away your secrets to the enemy, then that's kind of treacherous behavior. if it was a general pronouncement like that, just about war and don't be a traitor, then I could see that. I would probably give that a point. But because it's just about the Muslims, it's like, well, I don't care. I mean, like why would I think it's a bad thing to spy on the Muslims if I felt that there was, something that they were plotting to do? Like if there was some kind of terrible criminal act, then it'd probably be a good thing to be spying on. So again, it's one of these ones for me that because of the kind of nature of it, only really applying to Muslims, it's hard to really award it any points. I don't know what you think.
Well, I think it depends on the context. If you put it into the context of an army in a battle, and you send somebody off to go and spy on the Muslims to see how many camels, how many guns, how many cannons, how many this and this.
Yeah.
And then you see, well, actually, no, they've only got 2 elephants and 5 camels. This is a weakness, so we can easily take them with just the spears. Then this is spying at its worst in my eyes.
Yeah. I mean,
But in a theological context, it makes absolutely no sense to spy on the Muslims and pointing out their weaknesses. This is what we are doing every single day.
Well, yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? You can so easily turn this to meaning saying anything that critiques Islam.
Yeah,
it is pointing out the weaknesses yeah.
Okay.
But
So it depends what you're talking about.
So it depends how charitable we want to be with this, whether we are going to just allow them in the
Yeah, because the wording is so vague. It can mean a lot of things. They should have been more precise.
Yeah, I'm tempted to give this a 0 because of that. I have to say, because I just feel like it's just basically saying that don't do anything to harm us. Doesn't matter. I mean, and also you can say if they're the invading army, then I'd see it as absolutely right to be spying on them and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you can turn it like that too. Exactly. Yeah.
So if it was more specific in one sense, just definitely being about war, and it was done as a kind of more universal principle, I'd be willing to give this a 1. But because it's neither of those things, I think we should have a 0.
I agree totally, because you can spin it any which way you want.
Yeah, it's a more interesting one, at least. I mean, I had to think about it at least for this one, but yeah, I think 0 is the option. Right, we're at the last one, the final one, and it really does end with a whimper rather than a bang. Insulting one of the companions, and there's no Quran verse here, but just some hadiths. I have declared war on anyone who is hostile towards a friend of mine, the Prophet said. Do not abuse my companions by the one who has my soul in his hand. If one of you spent the like of Uhud in gold, it would not reach the mud or a half of it of one of them, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Excuse me again, as usual, for my awful Arabic pronunciation. Yeah, so well, let's stop. I've been chatting way too much this episode, so why don't you give me your thoughts on this and I'll just listen.
This is nothing. I don't have any thoughts. This is just ridiculous.
There you go, folks. That's it. No, I mean, it's first of all, let's point out what I think probably most people will understand. Will have got straight away when they look at this. It's like, well, why the hell is this on a list of ongoing sins? This is as stupid as putting in the Quran that you shouldn't marry Muhammad's wives after he dies. I mean, that has got such a limited time frame. There's no point in it being in any kind of moral commandment going on for the future. And to me, this is the same one. Even if I actually thought it was immoral, which I don't, I mean, insulting one of the companions, who cares? But they're all dead. They're all dead for like 12, 1300, how many, 1,000 plus years. What does this matter? Why is this still in a list of like important major sins, not even just little ones? This is considered major. That you build a time machine, go back 1,000 years, and tell Umar to fuck off or something.
But who are the companions?
Well,
There's no list of companions. Nobody knows who the companions are. You only get the righteous four, and that's it.
Well, I mean, you've got the hadith there of just the Prophet saying, "Do not abuse my companions." I'm assuming he's talking about the close people he had met during the time. But then, I mean, you do make a good point, because there's different ways. Like some people, there are some hadiths by people who basically met him once on a hill or something, and there are others who like knew him for a good part of his life. So, like, the term companion, as I've seen it used, is very flexible term. Like, it can literally just mean if you've met Mohammed, then you're his companion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit, but the point is, they've all been dead for a millennia or more. So why is this even on the list? It's
because you're not supposed to say Umar was an idiot.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what will happen, right? I'm sure you'll get somebody like Nadir Ahmed will say, "Look, this is predicting that time travel will be, in the future. It's another Quranic miracle claim, scientific miracle." And so they're just making sure if you go back, you treat the companions with respect. Don't call Abu Bakr, a slimy git or something. I was hoping to end off on a good one where we might actually have a bit more.
No, not really. Sorry, you failed.
But this is the list as I've got it. So we've come to the end of the journey. That's it. How many points did they pick up today? I think we gave half and a quarter, was it? I think
that's
half and a quarter, yeah, and the other 5 got 0. So it's not a great ending for Islam. But so what we'll do is, all right, I'll just take this off. We'll wrap up. Right. So what we'll do is, everyone, thanks for everyone commenting tonight. We are going to wrap up in a bit, but I just want to let you know, right, we will be doing the final part of this on Sunday, same time, 8 p.m. UK time. And what I'll do is I'll have a list of all these sins and what we scored them with, and we'll have a final score, and we'll work out exactly how well Islam did in the morality states. Spoilers, it won't be great, but the question is how badly they did. So that's the main thing. There's the excitement there. So we'll run through that. And then afterwards, we'll be celebrating 5,000 days of the Gin and Tonic show. More than 13 and a half years we've been going now. And I'll put together a few clips. Stops and I will kind of have a little bit of a reminisce, as he's been here right from the start. So I'll put a few clips together, short ones, which we can watch and enjoy. Probably talk a little bit, just a potted history of the show as well. And we may have Rob with us on Sunday. He said he'll try and clear his schedule, but there's no guarantee of that. I will put the link out to other older members of the show, previous hosts and stuff like that, just on the off chance that anyone else does join us. But it may just be me and Stotts, but it should be fun either way. And that's the plan going forward. And yeah, and then we've officially finished. Stotts, have you enjoyed doing this?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think it's been good. I think we've had better weeks and worse weeks. I think some weeks we've actually had some real proper back and forth moral kind of conundrums on certain ones, and really had to argue about it, which has been good. Other times they've just been downright silly, and that's always fun as well. But I think it's obvious most of the stuff is pretty much irrelevant for today. But there are some core bits and pieces here where you could say there is some morality, but we'll have a final score on Sunday. But yeah, I've enjoyed doing it. I mean, I could have done this on my own channel, but I just felt that this was very much a gin and tonic kind of topic to cover. And I really want to thank Stocks for coming on and doing this, because without his involvement, this wouldn't have happened. And it's been really enjoyable. And I hope everyone else has enjoyed watching this. But yeah, thank you, Stocks, for basically making this happen, because I've had some good fun doing it.
It's been a pleasure. No, I liked it. I mean, it's something that I enjoy doing. That it's, taking things and analyzing them and just taking a look. Okay, what do people mean? What is it? So this is what I like. Yeah.
And it's something that's never been done before, as far as I know. I've never seen on any channel anyone go through and do this. So I think what I'll do is, at some point, I will do like a super cut of all the segments of the 70 sins and put it up on my own channel. And hopefully get a few more views on it. But yeah, it's been good. So we're at the point now where we will wrap up. As I say, we'll be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time. In the meantime, we do have another show worked out for next Friday, so we'll be back next Friday. After that, the future is kind of up in the air. I did leave a community post asking you to leave suggestions for what you wanted to do going forward. There have been a couple there, but it will be nice if more people would let us know what you want to do going forward, because I haven't got any. I've got a few ideas, but I haven't got any massive specific plans. So let us know, because if we are going to continue, then it will take a bit of audience participation, because I know Stops has been doing this a very long time, and I know you're happy to come in as a panelist, but you're not really into digging up and doing a whole bunch of research on different topics and stuff. So, which I understand. So yeah, let us know what you want to do going forward.
I'm just sorry, I was reading the comment, but he was nice to a cat. Come on, be balanced.
Oh yeah, I did put that one up. I did put yeah. Thank you, Quran only fans. You put some good comments up there.
Yeah,
but,
okay,
yeah.
we'll take a look. We'll see what happens on Sunday, and it would be nice if people really want to know something, if people really have ideas, if people really also get involved, because come on, it's not easy to just sit here in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, and to just pull things out of your left elbow, and to think of things all the time. And because I have things that interest me, okay? Now, but I'm not the audience, so it's always nice to know what is it that people are interested in, what is it that people have wondered about, what is it that people sort of have heard from someone and want to know a little bit more about. And we'll see if we don't know it, then we can go and dig, and this is something that I enjoy. But it's something that, if I'm always sitting here saying, well, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be fascinating for everybody else. So I'm a Democrat, so I think the opinion of the people should count here, and they should dictate what it is that we are doing here, because I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for the people.
Well, it's clear. One thing is definitely clear. I think people do want to see some Dawa review videos. And I'm quite happy to indulge that to a degree. But as I say, I really do need to be getting back to my own channel, which is and doing them there. But I'm happy to do some here and there. But what I would do is, look, if you want to see Dawa review videos, then put some links in the chat. Put some links in the community post. Tell us what videos you'd like us to take a look at. I mean, one of the advantages of this channel compared to my own channel is I tend to do short videos. I'm quite happy to do longer ones that we can spread over 2 or 3 episodes, and then it's something we don't have to particularly think about. So if you want us to do it, I'd ask you to go out, find stuff. If you've seen things that you find interesting, some Dawa video you want us to take a look at, then at least put the title, put the channel and the title of the video down so I can take a look at it. And we may do it, but I've kind of got enough to sort of deal with my own channel, so I can't really be looking for too much for this channel as well. So if you want to see us do that, just give us some help on what videos you want to see, and there's every chance that we'll do it. If we like the video, if we think we can do a good review, then we'll we can split a half hour, maybe it was a 30-40 minute video, we'll do it over a few sessions, and so but let us know. That's the key thing. So with all that said, thank you, Stops. He and I will be back, maybe with some other people, on Sunday at 8 p.m. Until then, have a great Friday night, Saturday night, and we will see you on Sunday. Good night, everyone.
Have a good night, sweet day. Great weekend.